Hi guys, my name is Summer Davis, and today I'm doing my presentation on the famous Renaissance artist Michelangelo. Michelangelo, born in 1475 and died in 1561. Michelangelo was skilled in many things. He was skilled in sculpture, painting, architecture, and even some poetry. Now, Michelangelo's family was from a minor bourgeoisie of Florence, Italy, so he did not grow up poor like a lot of artists of his time. And unlike the other artists of his time, Michelangelo did have proper schooling until he was at the age of 13. In 1488, he began in a painter's apprenticeship under Domenico Ghirlandaio. In the following year, Michelangelo joined a group of young sculptors against his own father's wishes, who believed that he was below his family's standing. His work within that group of sculptors attracted the attention of Lorenzo the Magnificent, who practically adopted Michelangelo and then taught him everything he knew. Now, let's move on to some of Michelangelo's famous works. The Sistine Chapel Ceiling. The work on the Sistine Chapel ceiling began in 1508 as a commission for the Pope Julius II for a replacement of the original blue ceiling that was dotted in stars. This painting took 4 years to complete. Originally, it was supposed to be ornate geometric patterns, but per Michelangelo's request, he came up with the idea of depicting scenes from the Old Testament in the Bible. The narrative was divided into 3 sections that began at the altar and ended at the entrance. The first 3 paintings depict the creation of heavens and earth, then the creation of Adam and Eve and the expulsion from the Garden of Eden, and finally the story of Noah and the Great Flood. Around these frescoes sit ignudi, nude youths, accompanied by prophets and sibyls in the spandrels. If one looks into the 4 corners of the room, scenes depicting the salvation of Israel can be seen. In the Last Judgment scene, Saint Bartholomew can be seen holding the skin of a face, which many believe to be a self-insert of Michelangelo's own face, which he did quite often in his pieces. The Creation of Adam. Completed in 1511, this famous fresco was one of the most complex and difficult to make, taking 16 days to complete. I couldn't imagine laying on my back working on this for 16 days straight, but Michelangelo managed to do it. It is also the most famous piece on the Sistine Chapel ceiling. It represents the creation of Adam in the Bible, using the phrase from Genesis, God created man in his own image. Adam is the man in the bottom left corner, reaching out towards God, which is the man in the top right. The main details of the fresco are in the fingers of God and Adam, which are almost touching, that represent the divine breath of life. It is also one of the most famous pieces in the world, with many modern depictions of the scene of the hands almost touching. Here is a close-up of the most famous part of the creation of Adam. You would have to be living under a rock to not recognize this. Finally, we have the David. This famous sculpture was based on David from the story of David and Goliath in the Bible. This shows David before having killed Goliath. Many statues before Michelangelo's often depict David after killing Goliath, standing on top of Goliath's severed head in an act of victory. This piece was created in 1501 through 1504, and Michelangelo was only 26 when he started it. It was made from one single solid block of white marble from the quarries of Carrara, Tuscany, that was discarded and wasn't meant for use. He is 15.16 meters tall, almost 17 feet, and weighs 5,660 kilograms or 12,478.12 pounds. He is located in the Museum of Accademia Gallery in Florence, Italy. He was supposed to be on Florence's cathedral, the Duomo, where he would have been seen high up and much smaller due to perspective. But once he was finished, he was so beautiful that no one wanted to put him up there, so they just placed him in Piazza della Signoria, where he could be seen up close. Now that we know his most famous pieces of work, who was Michelangelo? Well, according to historians, he was below average in height, often wore a sparse beard, and had eyes flecked in blue and yellow. He was said to have a terrible sense in fashion, and did not like to bathe often despite his wealthy status. His personality is still quite the mystery today, though. It has been told that early on in his career, he could not keep his friends because of the greed he developed from all the money in his commissions. He also tended to be quite moody, so much so that one of his peers, Pietro Torrigano, punched him in the nose for it, leaving him permanently crooked. Like I said before, he also dabbled in poetry. He wrote hundreds of letters and poems, and more than 300 still exist today. Many of them seem to be suggestive. They discuss love, lust, and ecstasy, but also loyalty, spirituality, and the human soul. And although he never married and had no children, his name was passed down through his nephew, although it was said that he did have love affairs with men and women alike. And that's my presentation on the famous Renaissance artist Michelangelo. He might be long gone today, but he still has a massive impact in today's society. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Michelangelo's life and his famous works. I had fun, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.